Chandan and Lochan worked as bodyguards for the village chief, serving a remote Himalayan settlement near Haldwani. They were practical, capable men. Their days were spent protecting the community from the physical dangers of the mountains, poachers, thieves, and wildlife. That reality shattered late one night when 4 gunshots echoed through the dense woods at the edge of the village. Searching the tree line, they found a man dead in the dirt, with his stomach torn open. It wasn't the work of a leopard. The precision of the wounds pointed to a deliberate, targeted murder. Inside the dead man's bag, they found a single black and white photograph of an elderly woman from their own village. With the woman's face staring back at them from the killer's bag, the brothers sprinted back to the village. They had to reach her door before whoever fired those shots did. When they arrived, the elderly woman was surprisingly calm. She showed no fear toward the dead man in the woods. She explained that the man was an assassin, sent to kill her son. She had been waiting for him, believing her son's death was the only way to end their suffering. Pushing into the back room, the brothers were hit by an unbearable, putrid stench that caused both men to physically heave. The investigation into a forest murder had led them to something much older and far more dangerous inside the house. The woman's eldest son was bedridden, his body swollen to nearly 200 kilos. Pus seeped from every pore, coating the sheets in a thick yellow film. The boy begged them to end his life, claiming a demonic curse had taken root inside his flesh. Village Chief Lalchand arrived and recognized the affliction. He had seen this same supernatural plague wipe out a neighboring village. Chief Lalchand ordered an immediate village quarantine. The brothers were tasked with loading the boy into his vintage blue Jeep and abandoning him exactly 100 kilometers away. To save the village, the men were forced to abandon their humanity and treat a living child like a container of pure sickness. They sped away from the village, the boy's wails echoing from the back of the Jeep. Suddenly, a figure in a white kurta appeared in the middle of the road. Chandan swerved violently, nearly sending the vehicle off the mountain path. The man simply stood in the road and smiled at them before vanishing into the surrounding forest. When they finally stopped at the drop-off point and checked the back, the 200-kilo boy was gone. Somewhere between the village and the destination, the quarantine failed. The entity was no longer in the vehicle. The men returned to the village and performed a cleansing ritual, burning their clothes in hopes of leaving the nightmare behind. The next morning, Lalchand was jolted awake by his pregnant wife's terrified screams. Outside, 5 of their goats lay slaughtered. A 6th was actively eating the remains. Lalchand realized the entity had followed them back. As it jumped to his livestock, he and his wife took up axes to hack the infected animals to pieces. The contagion was consuming the village from the inside out, turning their home into an uninhabitable graveyard. With the village falling apart, Chandan and Lochan fled to find Chandan's estranged wife, his disabled son, and their elderly aunt. They took shelter in a distant town, hoping the change in location would finally break the entity's trail. In the middle of the night, the aunt woke to see Chandan's wife standing at the edge of the roof, cradling the youngest son. Chandan rushed to the roof, but his wife and child were gone. In the ensuing panic, the aunt disappeared as well. The next morning, his disabled son began to violently purge. Inside the mess was a massive clump of white hair and the aunt's gold earring. Chandan's family had been physically consumed from within. To stay and fight was to be next. Watching his son vomit the remains of his family, Chandan's mind finally gave way. Lochan dragged his brother into the Jeep, forcing him to abandon his last remaining family members and their entire history to escape the infection. They fled to the city of Haldwani, where they started new lives and never spoke of the village again. Chandan's actual 31-year-old grandson submitted this account, treating the events as a documented part of his family's survival history. Sometimes the only way to survive a supernatural nightmare is to let it win, severing your own past to spare the generations that follow.